Welcome back to the channel, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you have a terrific day ahead of you. Today's edition of Everything You Need is one where there is a lot to dissect. Starting off with what used to be the staple piece of the video, captaincy, and possibly the most interesting discussion in this video. Because in recent times, it's been very hard to justify a pivot away from Haaland, but might it finally be time to do so? And then it's followed by a detailed look at Arsenal as well as Crystal Palace, and then the forward category and the midfield category, looking at the popular options and assessing a variety of things. Not whether they're just good options in isolation, but whether in the context of the game, they could be a good buy or they could be a good sell, and how they look down the line as well. So if that sounds good, if you've enjoyed the content at any time in the past, if you think you're going to enjoy any part of the video, then a like right now would be greatly appreciated. It would take you a millisecond and it would help me out a lot. So as always, I appreciate your support in advance. Thank you so much. Equally, the same with the subscribe button if you have not done so already. But not much else needs to be said. So like I said, have a terrific day and enjoy the video. Starting with a slide that you used to see a lot, the captaincy candidates. And for those listening, on screen, the players listed are Haaland, and then in the second paragraph, we've got the Arsenal assets, Gabriel, Eze, Saka, Timber. Then third, we have Salah, and then fourth, in brackets, in the next line, is Bruno, Cunha, Mbeumo, and Mateta. Now, that is not reflective of my stance in terms of their rankings. It's just to list the options and categorize them appropriately. Before we get into the individual options, just to discuss a strategy a little bit more as opposed to the players' prospects. Of all the weeks that we've had recently, I think this is easily the best one to go against Erling Haaland. And as I'll explain, I think there are a number of reasons why you can potentially expect a slightly lower return than he has been giving in the recent past. And you can expect maybe a couple of the other guys to do quite well as well. So I really would consider this. I think it's a wonderful opportunity when most of the field are not going to do it. And in terms of when you normally go against Haaland, I would say the upside is fairly limited. But this time around, I do not think that to be the case for reasons I shall discuss now. Whilst everything I've just said is true, to me at least, that is not to say that he cannot haul, and he's an awful option, right? There is a reason he's the highest point scorer in the game. There is a reason that he's the first person we have to speak about in this captaincy section, because it's going away from him to someone else, right? And clearly, that's not exactly the easiest task. Typically, Bournemouth would present a stylistic matchup that you would say favors Haaland, right? They are very willing to have a decently high line, and they're very willing to engage in a more basketball-like game where there's plenty of transitions, and in particular for the opposition, you can, if you have the weapons, exploit them in these very vertical, quick, devastating transitions. Something that there's probably no one on the planet who's better at exploiting than Erling Haaland himself. However, I do wonder if they may opt for a different approach this time around. Now, there are stats flying around on X, for example. Bournemouth have the 18th worst XGC, which is expected goals conceded, in the league this season away from home. That is true, right? But they conceded 4.44 XGC in their last game away. That was at Crystal Palace. A bulk of that also came away at Liverpool in Game Week 1, which is very understandable, right, considering the conditions they were playing them in. And then a bit away at Leeds as well, where honestly they didn't defend too well. However, following that Palace game, and the number of chances they gave up, especially to Jean-Philippe Mateta, and knowing that Iraola were probably even more concerned about Erling Haaland being in those positions, far more concerned, surely he adapts slightly, right? Whether that be in a slightly less aggressive approach, whether that be in a slightly deeper line, some variation of their system, whereby they're not just going to play into Haaland's strengths. Because if they do, it's going to be very challenging for them to limit him to even just a couple big chances, right? You'd expect him to get more if that is the case. And for me, following those performances, I just don't think that they'll replicate the exact same game model they did against Crystal Palace, because clearly against City with Haaland, it'll probably hurt you. So that's my opinion of it. And that's why I think the statistics are slightly misleading for this. Not only because they're going to change approach, in my opinion, but also because in the other games that they've had at home and one other away game, they've been very, very solid defensively. Take the Spurs game. At the time they were playing him in Game Week 3, Spurs were flying high. They were in great form. They just won 2 on the bounce. They had a huge away winner at City. Thomas Frank's come in. Richarlison scoring goals. It's all going great. They go there and they do an absolute job on them. They were magnificent. Now, that is the type of away performance I think they're more likely to give at Manchester City than the performance they gave away at Palace. Another thing is form and momentum, because they are powerful and mysterious things, as it says on the slide. And sometimes it's just your day. It's just your time to shine. And the events that you will call a bit lucky, a bit random, they will just go your way. And currently, Bournemouth sit third in the league, right? They had a very good season last year, obviously dropped off a bit, lost a lot of their big players in Sabani, Kirkes, Huijsen, right? To lose 3 out of your backline and Kepa as well, to lose 4 out of your 5 of a backline that performed magnificently well is very harsh. But then they recruit so well. They have such a good start to the season, right? And the only game that they've lost, aside from that, is that Liverpool game in game week 1. And when it's kind of just going your way, and maybe this may be the turn in the tide for City where it starts to decline a little bit, all of a sudden, this game isn't as straightforward as saying like, oh, Manchester City win and Erling Haaland score. Going to something a little bit more tactical as well. One thing I did like about Erling Haaland's goal-scoring streak is the dynamics that City had for him, essentially. Because as Doku said, they're the chefs and Haaland's the one eating. This is why I didn't go for Haaland in game week 1. Even though I was concerned that he could brace away at Wolves, I thought that the attacking dynamics overall with the players they have may not be suitable for him, right? For example, Marmoush and some other variations that we've seen prior to this season. But with Marmoush coming back and the fact that even if he gets 10 to 20 minutes in this game, right, that's 10 to 20 minutes in my eyes of Erling Haaland have to almost play second fiddle again, because now he's got a second striker who constantly wants to run off him and isn't going to be doing that hold-up role that he's likely to do, right? With Cherki, obviously a supremely talented player, but they haven't had too much time on the pitch. He's also comfortable shooting from range, and whilst a brilliant creative, I'm not sure that his relationship with Haaland has been superbly established. Obviously, they've just come away from a defeat at Villa. There were a few challenges there. And it may just be a time that Bournemouth sent a little bit of blood, and as such, it may translate into a challenging fixture. Now, again, Bournemouth aren't going to completely change the system. He's still the best striker in the league. It was literally just one game. Yeah, he had very little, but it was literally just one game, and so on, right? So to go there is completely justifiable, and it could very well result in a haul. However, I think there are enough negatives that if you wanted to pivot away this time around, it would be justifiable. So if you were to pivot away, where would you go? And we'll start by looking at Arsenal assets who probably have the best fixture this week. Saying that, I think you have to give Burnley some respect, because at home this season, they beat Leeds 2-0, right? They had that 1-0, narrow 1-0 defeat to Liverpool, but Liverpool, to be honest, created very, very little against their 5-4-1 deep block. They had that 1-1 draw against Forest, where honestly, they played pretty decently, and I thought it was a fair result. And then they had their 2-0 win at home to Leeds. Now, did they deserve it? Well, I think you get what you deserve. Did they get a bit lucky? Again, I think you make your own luck. But yeah, you could argue those things, right? Leeds had some big chances and they should have put them away. And did Leeds perform better on the day? Yeah, absolutely. But at the end of the day, they still got over the line again at home. So it's clear to see that when they're at home, it's not the same as when they're away. It's not the same as when they go to Old Trafford or when they go to the Etihad, right? It's less likely that they get beaten up in that fashion. Now, could it still happen? Yeah. I mean, Arsenal are the best team in the league at the moment. They've got so many brilliant attacking weapons. The dynamics are better this year, in my opinion. And as such, they could put Burnley to the sword. However, I think you just have to have some appreciation for that, right? You can't just look at it solely in isolation of their stats or their away games, because that's primarily where the bulk of the bad numbers come from, right? Let's look at the options individually in a little bit more depth. Gabriel. Seldom is it the case that we get to a game week and people are really considering captaining a defender. But when he's probably the biggest box threat the league's ever seen, playing for arguably the best defence the league's ever seen, and I think the Chelsea defence under Mourinho can certainly challenge for that. But if not that, then there's not too much else, especially considering the hyper-competitiveness of the Premier League now, where that wasn't really the case back then. And he's got DEFCON going for him, which never really existed. He may actually just be in a league of his own when it comes to the defensive assets. And obviously Burnley won't pose too much threat going forward, right? So if you did want to go there, I'd understand it. I think it's completely justifiable. However, if you are to go there, I think you should just know the risks associated to it. Number one, your floor is extremely low. It's 2 points, it's 1 point if you think you can get a yellow card, because it's literally just one moment. All Burnley have to do have one moment. It's not necessarily one good moment where they put an amazing passage of play together. It's literally just a long ball and then a lucky bounce and a decent finish, right? That could happen and that's it. Gabriel 2-pointer locked in. because the probability of him scoring a set piece is still quite minimal, right? It is minimal, irrespective of how good he is. Consider not only the fact that like it's not like Burnley are inept, they can still defend their box, but also there's other people in the box who can, contribute from set pieces. Gyökeres, not so much, but Calafiori, Timber, the other centre-back, whether that be Mosquera or Saliba, depending on who's going to play. So that is something to consider, even though he's the biggest threat and it's geared more so for him. Also, in this game, you expect them to have a lot of the ball. And I'm not sure they're going to go long into the striker as much. Like, Lyle Foster isn't really that type, prefers to be played in behind. So I doubt he hits DEFCON this game. Possibility, but he didn't hit it against Palace or Fulham. And Fulham had a recognised striker that day. So I'm not sure it's as likely. So that's that, right? Your floor is extremely low. And if you're willing to accept that, then fair enough. And even your ceiling is quite unrealistic because, as we spoke about, to actually score a set piece is, it's not the most probable event in the world. And he'd almost have to get that because if he doesn't, he's pretty much looking at a 6-pointer. I think with Calafiori and Timber's attacking threat, Eze Saka, Gyökeres, Rice, the left winger, between them, one of them probably walks away with like a goal or an assist, like an assist and a clean sheet, a goal and a clean sheet, a goal and an assist, a goal and a decent performance all around. So if he doesn't hit that, then the floor is really just going to be at 6 points. Something to consider. Going elsewhere for an Arsenal option, he's not listed here, but I think Timber, like if you really fancy the clean sheet with his open play attacking threat and the amount of the ball they're going to have and the fact that they have a preference for playing on the right-hand side, again, I don't mind it if you want to sway away from Haaland. And then going Eze or Saka. Again, I think it's justifiable. I do think, again, you have to appreciate the risk. One, they have a spread of output there. And two, neither of these guys this season have shown that they're going to be super explosive. I mean, there's always glimpses, right? And especially Eze at Palace, I think you definitely had that. I'd say his body language is a little bit different. I think the goal against Palace has helped. I think the fact that, well, not the fact, but I think his body language against Palace was the best I've seen. The game before, it was, again, the best I've seen. So I think he's getting more and more settled and comfortable in this Arsenal side. And Saka's got so much quality. It's just, we haven't always had those super big hauls from him. Now and then, but it's not too common, right? It's not the Salah or the Palmer or the Bruno when he's playing in a better position or Foden type that you give them the conditions and they're absolutely going to slam you home. But considering the amount of pressure Burnley will face, the amount of the ball that Arsenal have, the preference for the right-hand side, I think there will be such a high volume of moments that they could hurt Burnley in that when you consider they only really need a goal and an assist to walk away with a big haul, it should be okay, and it is certainly justifiable. So yeah, if you wanted to go here, I think it's perfectly reasonable as long as you understand the downsides that exist with pretty much all of them. Then the last captaincy slide is primarily about the man who's above me, and that is Mohammed Salah. Now, I think it's very easy to write him off considering what's happened so far. But he's not even that far away from being ranked as the second highest point scorer among mids. It's really just like a couple good games. I'm going to stand by this, and very comfortably so. I don't think his performances have been anywhere near as bad as a lot of the people on social media, whether that be pundits or just other people, have made them out to be. Yeah, he's missed a few chances, but it's one thing to miss chances, but you have to generate them almost for yourself at times as well, right? Okay, yeah, you can have some brilliant crosses of the ball and you can receive brilliant crosses, but you still have to be in the positions, okay? And there's not everyone around the world who can do that, but he is a magnet for that. So honestly, like him missing chances isn't that big of a deal for me because I know that like he's got the quality to put these type of things away. It's not like some of the other players in the league who have a historically awful record of putting away big chances. Okay, he's not like that at all. He is arguably the best Premier League player of all time for a reason, and one of those reasons is that he puts chances away. Secondly, it's pretty hard for him to be flourishing when the dynamics aren't so suited to him, especially at right back. I think now you're going to see, I put permanent in quotation marks because I wouldn't be surprised if he drops into right back for a little bit of the game. But more often than not, I think you'll see Szoboszlai at right centre mid now. I think what's particularly indicative of that is Arne Slot starting him at right centre mid against Brentford, moving him back to right back, but realising it's not working, and in the same game, they're moving him back to right central midfield. Obviously saw the assist he got for Salah, or you likely saw the assist he got for Salah in that game. And he's a very, very, very beneficial piece of the puzzle for Salah's output rising because he's got the carrying from deep, so Salah can stay high and wide. but he's also got a great weight of pass. But even more than that, right? He's so selfless and so intelligent. There are so many times I watch football or watch Premier League footballers, and I just wish they would have released it at a different time. I wish the weight of pass would have been a bit different. People refer to it as technical empathy. When it comes to that, Szoboszlai is one of the best. He's absolutely one of the best. The amount of times I've seen him be able to take a shot or be able to do something different, but he always looks for Salah because he knows the quality of the guy on his right is very beneficial for Mo. So on the assumption that Bradley has a decent game at right back, I think you could start to see a slight change in dynamics, and you could see a slight surge in Salah's underlying numbers, at least, if not for goals and assists. And yeah, I don't think the performances have been as bad as they've said. And I think he's been a little bit of a scapegoat, honestly. Villa's form is obviously a concern with this fixture because they're coming off multiple wins in the league and they've had a real resurgence and a very Unai Emery, Aston Villa type of performance at Villa Park against City. A very good defensive and tactical performance from both the side and Unai Emery as well, right? And when they go to Anfield, they're not going to make it so easy. Another thing is, yeah, I don't think he's playing too bad, but Salah's 2025 has not exactly been superb, right? Ever since he signed that new contract, he just hasn't been firing in the same way. So you could say it's not only this season, but also the back end of last when they were trying to close out the title. One thing I do wonder, though, again, with the attacking dynamics, was the Brentford defeat finally enough? And I think if there was anyone to be finally enough, it's actually going to be that one. Obviously, they lost at Palace, but, you know, like, those things happen. They had a lot of luck in the first 5-6 games to constantly win them, late on, right? That they probably were like, okay, we accept that. Again, it happened at Chelsea. They were like, meh, all right, fine, a little blip. We'll get over it. We've got United at home. We've got such a good record. The crowd will be behind us. Then they lose that, right? And then they lose at Brentford. So now when I think the fans come to Anfield on Saturday night, it's going to be a slightly different atmosphere. And I think Slot will know that. And there's a increase in pressure, a significant increase in pressure following that defeat away at Brentford. An increase that wasn't the same for a Palace or Chelsea or United, right? And as such, and there was another defeat in there. I can't exactly remember, but there was another defeat in there. And as such, I think it was Galatasaray. And as such, I would expect something to change at least. And I think they'll be a little bit better. So if you wanted to go here, and the fact that he's a mid over Haaland, I don't mind it. And then in terms of the others, I think the next batch of fixtures, as I'll discuss, are more suited to Cunha as opposed to Mbeumo, particularly the Forest fixture. And I wouldn't be surprised if he just picked the ball up in a park here, scored from range, similar in a sense to how he did at Old Trafford against Brighton, but also how he done so many times in the past, right? So with that in mind and how high ceiling of an option he is as a mid, like as a differential captain, if you are going to bet against Haaland, I don't mind it. Probably wouldn't go Bruno and Mbeumo for the dynamics. But again, I think Bruno, as we'll speak about later, is somewhat inevitable and super reliable. So if you wanted to do it, I get it. Mbeumo's in great form. I just don't think it's the greatest stylistic matchup. I probably wouldn't. Mateta, I think, is interesting. And I think if you're going to bet against Haaland, right, there are so many other good options here that they're all largely justifiable. I think it's mainly just, are you willing to go against the big man? And then picking your poison from there. And the reason I say it's a coin flip with Mateta is there is the possibility that he accumulates a lot of big chances and then converts them. There is also the possibility he accumulates a lot of big chances, but resultant of his finishing the season, he doesn't do so, and that hurts him on the bonus. And there is also the possibility that Brentford carry on this superb form, right? They played brilliantly against West Ham. They won 5-0 in the Cup, and sandwiched between that is a massive 3-2 victory against Liverpool. And they actually make it very, very difficult for a Palace side who are also playing Thursday night, right? So with that being the case, you know, I would say that all outcomes are realistically on the table. And if you wanted to go there, you are flipping a coin, essentially, because I think it's a bit of a gamble. Moving on to the Arsenal assets, where I will be discussing Victor Gyökeres, Saka, Eze, Timber, Calafiori, Gabriel, Raya, and Declan Rice. Starting with the Swede up top. Can you justifiably sell him? Yes, of course. Of course you can, right? It's your own team. You can do pretty much, you can do what you want. Should you? That is a lot more team specific. And therefore, it's challenging for me just to say yes or no, right? If you have multiple free transfers and significant conviction in the fact that one of Eze, Saka, Timber, Gabriel is going to haul, and maybe haul 2-3 times in the next X amount of games, and you don't own them, and you think Gyökeres is going to do badly, then absolutely go there. Absolutely. If at the same time you own Gyökeres and you think he'll actually do okay, and you're not too concerned about the Saka or Eze because you don't think they're going to haul big, and you have double Arsenal defense, you don't want double Arsenal defense, then again, I think that is a very, very, very justifiable position to have. Now, if you told me you had no free transfers and you wanted to hit out Victor Gyökeres for Mark Gui because you think he might play 1 minute against Spurs, that is obviously something that I would say is not as justifiable. I do think with Gyökeres, there are a lot of routes open and it's very subjective, right? To give you another example, would I sell Saka this week? No, probably not. But with Gyökeres, his form, and stylistically, is it the best matchup? Well, you know you're pretty much getting a 5-4-1 deep block against Burnley. You know that it could be an affair where there's a lot of physical duels, and centre-backs in general have done pretty decently against him in that regard. Now, I was impressed with him away at Newcastle, but I wouldn't say he got the better of them. I'd say he competed, but I wouldn't say he got the better of them. Burnley quite a physical side, so in that sense, it may be challenging. We've spoken about his challenges with those quick, snappy finishes in the box, reminiscent of Chris Wood last season at least, and just some of the better strikers in the world, right? They've all got that in their locker. Lewandowski, Kane, Lewandowski in particular, and he doesn't really have that. And that's more so what you're going to get against blocks. The number of transitions and the spacing behind will be limited, and as such, are the conditions the best for him? Probably not. However, and I mean this with the greatest respect, you have to consider the difference in quality and the difference in opposition. It's not all just about matchups. If I took an under-16 side and put a bunch of big, strong guys against Victor Gyökeres, he's still probably going to score 10 goals in the game, right? So there is that difference in quality. And as such, if he did score, if he did haul, I wouldn't be too surprised. But all things considered, it's probably not the best matchup in the world. In terms of the rest of them, I will start with Rice and Raya because neither of them are on screen. If you wanted to go Rice as almost a set and forget, I'd get it. It's just, for me, the fact that he's not really getting DEFCON too much makes you quite reliant on the attacking returns and even the clean sheet points as well, because you're getting one for that. And he doesn't really seem to me to be the type that's going to be particularly explosive outside of a little set period. And if you miss that, you could see like blank after blank after blank after blank. And you're not really ever expecting a haul. Like, you're not really expecting him to put up a goal and assist. And as such, I personally wouldn't. I know he's done very well on the point system so far, but I think at some point there will be a resurgence of the quality mids and forwards, and you'll start to see at least a few more goals rolling in and a few more hauls. So I wouldn't, especially when he blocks a spot like, Eze or Saka or Timber or Gabriel, who I would say are the top 4 Arsenal assets, alongside Calafiori, who I'd probably have 5th. And he's someone I like. Maybe Miles Lewis-Skelly gets a game in the league. That's your only challenge there. But if you're willing to accept that, with his open play threat and set piece threat, great. I think a great option. I don't like Raya. I've never liked the expensive goalkeeper because they never end up being the best value. Every season, it's the same story. Every single season. There'll be some mid to cheap price goalkeeper who represents far better value than them because when they clean, they'll also get saves and they'll get bonus points as such. They'll get these scrappy 1-0 victories. Whereas the premium goalkeepers, they'll just sit in net the whole game, never touch the ball, and everyone else is racking up assists, goals, and bonus points. They don't have to do anything, so they're not getting saves. Yeah, I don't like it. And if you wanted to get out of him, even before Burnley away, if you've got the free transfers to do so and move into other Arsenal assets, I would. I absolutely would. I don't think any of Eze, Saka, and Timber are essential for the run, right? You could argue the run is actually maybe a little bit better than it looks. I think now people are like, oh, Sunderland are second in the league, and as such, it might be a super difficult game. I'm not sure there is a super, super difficult game for Arsenal that's left. They've gone away to Anfield, they've gone away to Newcastle, they've played Palace, and they've had City. So when you've had those 4 gone, I don't think anything is going to get too bad. Especially because like Newcastle and Palace and Fulham have all been some of their roadblocks in the past, but they've got over all of those as well, right? So, going forward, I think the fixtures are pretty much they're very, very good. Saka, like I said in the captaincy section, it's just you can't rely on those big hauls. But if you are looking for at least a high floor, then with the possibility of hauling, of course, then go there. Eze is probably the most interesting one because he's shown this explosive side at Palace. You know you can get that. His volume, I'd say, of opportunities to return is increasing in the middle, game by game by game. And he'll probably have quite a bit of the ball. So, if you wanted to go there, again, I understand it's a bit of a risk because of the spread of output and the fact that I don't think he's completely clicked yet. But again, it's good. And in Timber, I just only have good things to say. So if you wanted to go there, then I would get it. One thing I do want to say is, from a strategic perspective, going Gabriel, Eze, and Saka is, in my opinion, on the assumption you're not super, super, super high on Timber, the most optimal, because you get 2 of the clean sheet points anyway, right? You get 2 of the clean sheet points anyway, and you get access to that huge upside that in a single game Eze or Saka can have, right? Maybe it's not super realistic, but they can hit like these 18 pointers. And as such, I think having that upside over Timber, where it's difficult for him to get bonus, especially when Gabriel is around. It's difficult for him to get Defcon. So he's very reliant on those attacking returns, and he would have to keep the clean sheet as well, right? And if you go, let's say, Gabriel, Timber, Gyökeres, every time there's a clean sheet, you're getting 4 points, and the guys with Eze and Saka are getting 2. So that's chopped in half. And for Timber to hit those big hauls, a lot of things need to go right. So for me, my preference would be Gabriel, Eze, Saka. But if you wanted to go 2 as well and just use another spot, I don't mind it, because their ceilings are not as realistic as an informed Salah. Moving on to Crystal Palace assets. Now, Daniel Munoz is the king of the defensive assets within the Palace unit for me, because the upside and offer is something quite unique. Mark Gahey has been magnificent from set pieces this season. He's also been very good on Defcon, especially in comparison to what we expected. However, his overall attacking threat, even with the set pieces, is nothing like Daniel Munoz. I mean, this guy's basically a right winger. Just look at his starting position in build-up, and he will basically be, as in part of the midfield line, willing and looking to go and hit that last line and exploit that space there. So with the combination of goals, assists, and very likely goals and assists, right, in good fixtures, Defcon every 1 in 3 in 5 games, he did something somewhat similar, I guess, in the good patch last season, and clean sheets. At that price, I just don't think you're going to get better value from any of the other Palace guys. Yes, Richards is very good on Defcon and is about 1.1 million cheaper. But the upside for a mil that you're getting from Munoz, I think it's chalk and cheese. I really do, because, okay, Richards gets 2 attacking returns in a season. Munoz will easily surpass 10 this season, in my opinion. Okay, maybe not easy, but I expect him to surpass 10. And if you could just consider in a single game, right? Even if Richards hits Defcon and Munoz doesn't, he gets a goal, that's pretty much guaranteed 3 bonus on the assumption they keep the clean sheet. And that's the difference of 7 points already. That's 3.5 Defcon games for Richards to catch up. And if he gets 2, then you're just miles behind and you're never getting him. This is on the assumption that Munoz isn't hitting Defcon and Richards is in the first place. Lacroix, again, like good box threat, very good on Defcon, but I just don't think they represent the upside. Him, Gay, or Richards that Munoz do. If you can't afford him, I get it. I would still have one of the other guys. But for me, Munoz is in a tier on his own. I wouldn't double up. They've obviously got the Thursday, Sunday rotations. It's slightly different this year, at least slightly different in their defensive output. It's not been as good as it was last year. So I don't think you're expecting as many clean sheets. And I think there are so many other good defenders that you can go for. So, for example, you can go 1 Palace, 1 Arsenal, or 2 Arsenal. You can go Anderson on the assumption he comes back fit. You can go Senesi. You can go one of the promoted defenders who's honestly really good. Good on Defcon, decent of a clean sheet threat in a moment, decent goal threat, and they're obviously very cheap. So I don't think you need to double here. And who knows? You want Sarah Mateta? Well, then obviously you're blocking yourself from that. I've gone between like yes and no to this question, but I do wonder if Ismail Assar is becoming a little bit underrated now, because at the end of the day, he's still about 1 million. No, he's what, 1.3 million cheaper than Mateta? No, 1.2 million cheaper than Mateta. A lot of the formation that looks optimal now, 4-5-1, 3-5-2, 4-4-2, something of that sort, it doesn't look to involve 3 forwards, right? And when he does get a goal, he's obviously getting an extra point. And when Palace do keep a clean sheet, he's getting that Mateta doesn't. And in a single game, that could be like a 2-point swing, which doesn't seem big, but when it's a head-to-head, it is quite so, especially in a one-off game. And with Mateta, I think a lot about him is, can he also get the bonus when he gets the goal? And if he's going to be missing big chances where that's a little bit more unlikely than Ismail Assar, then I do think he's a slightly overrated option. That's not to say he's not a good one. I think he's a very good option. But, if he is only getting 1 goal in a game, and he's done that in every game, 1 goal or less, apart from the Bournemouth one, and I doubt you see a replica of that crazy game where he picks up 100 big chances, then maybe he is a bit overrated, because his ceiling is somewhat limited by his finishing, not just in terms of not scoring the goal, but also in terms of losing bonus for missing those big chances. So if you did want to go Salah over Mateta, I would get it. My preference is still the Frenchman because of the overall threat that he's generating and the fact that the floor's higher. I quite like having that. But in a more aggressive approach, maybe you just go Salah, you avoid Mateta, you essentially look to outscore him, and you use those extra funds elsewhere to go for someone else, right? Because unless Palace are going to be blowing teams away, having both of them, especially when they're competing with each other for bonus, and you've got the defenders competing for bonus as well, probably isn't going to be the best thing for your maximum upside, unless they blow teams away. Moving on to the forwards as a whole, I obviously spoke about Jean-Philippe Mateta in the last slide, but just to add a little bit more. Is he a must? No, he's not a must. He's not a must, right? With the fact that he's missing this volume of big chances, and the fact that it's only one game where he's really seized upon the number of big chances he's getting, and he's still got less points than Joao Pedro and Bowen, right? So I think you have to have some appreciation for the other forward options. Yeah, it's looking like there's a lot going for him at the moment, and maybe the others haven't done quite as well in the last 2-3 weeks out of the popular guys, but they've still got more points than him for a reason. And it's still only been 9 weeks, right? So it's not like we're talking years apart. It's just a few weeks where it hasn't gone the other guy's way. I don't think he's a must, right? You have Salah as an alternative. You have just not going there at all. And even if he gets one, if he misses the big chances, 7-8 pointer, okay, fine. It's not going to be the end of the world. Especially when Joao Pedro is a quality footballer. Jarrod Bowen is a quality footballer. They have brilliant records of always putting up pretty good numbers in the season, right? To varying degrees, but overall, very solid. They'll probably come good. They always have, and they probably will do so again. JP, for example, loves a big game, right? We used to call him the Giant Slayer, JP the Giant Slayer last year, for a reason, yeah? Bowen is so consistent. It's like, no matter what the circumstances are at that club, he's always going to turn up with something. Whether it would be they're down and out 2-0, and then he finds an assist, whether it be 0-0 against Forest, where they haven't had much, and then he scores, gets a goal against Palace. Like, even if they get dominated, he always comes up with moments. And when he gets the ball, he always looks dangerous. So I don't think you have to get him. A preference, sure. I think it's a very, very safe move, and that's wonderful. Who doesn't enjoy a bit of safety from time to time? But I don't think he's a must. Gyökeres isn't an absolute sell, but as I expressed earlier, if you want to sell him under those conditions that I discussed in the Arsenal section to start with, if you want to go back, then yeah, absolutely. Thiago, I think those next 3 fixtures that are quite challenging, which include Palace and Newcastle and Brighton, are low floor because you can imagine all the sides putting in good performances. I would say they are medium ceiling, however, because at a minimum, because he's in such good form. He's a good player. Brentford have good attacking weapons. They're playing really well at the moment. All those sides are also susceptible to not having as good of a game, whereas you wouldn't expect that with Arsenal. So in that case, I'd say low floor and a medium ceiling of a minimum. If you want to take that on and you're willing to accept that, by all means. I personally wouldn't, though. I don't think it's worth using the transfer for when JP, Bowen, Mateta, Gyökeres are all fine in terms of the floors due to the fixtures they have / the quality in the near future. I'm liking Voltemada in an increasing amount. Still slightly concerned about the fixture, given the ceiling, given how Newcastle are playing. But I mean, West Ham can't really defend headers. He's very good in the air. West Ham can't really defend too well anyway, depending on the team that they put out. And Newcastle, I think this might be the game where they let the handbrake off a little bit and they just let that attacking talent flow a little bit more. And if they do that, then he could definitely get in on the returns. So at least for some short-term upside, I don't mind it. Again, the reason I don't love is the ceiling and Newcastle's attacking dynamics playing into that over the course of the medium term, but I like it. Welbeck isn't for me. I don't like buying Brighton attacking assets because I could just never trust them, right? They'll go away to Liverpool. They'll go away to Arsenal. They'll beat them 10-0, and then they'll play Port Vale, and that was just the first side that came to my mind, so I apologize if you're a Port Vale fan. And then they'll lose 20-0, right? They almost have this inverse FDR. And I don't think even with their players, you can trust them to be super ruthless in front of goal on a consistent basis. So Welbeck isn't for me. I think medium term as well, this will be a transfer out at some point. Like at some point, I think it will start to go wrong. And I don't think you want to be booking that in when you don't need to, right? And again, Krupi Jr. probably not the most efficient use of an FT because eventually Evan Nilsson will be back. Eventually he'll get his plays. And when I say eventually, maybe 1, 2, 3 weeks. And then, what are you going to do? He's just going to sit there. And you probably didn't need to bring him in. Now, if you want a cheap forward spot, I would still prefer GUI. He's down to 4.2 where Krupi's 4.6. I guarantee you at some point in the season, on the assumption that dead spot stays, or half dead spot, I guess, now that they've had a few minutes, that 0.4 will come in handy. More so than that spot will. All right, fine, you might gain an extra 1 point in like 3 weeks, but that 0.4 is the difference between X and Y option, and Y scores 50 more over a 6-week period. That could realistically happen. And yeah, I would say that's a decent summary of the forwards. I just go back to JP and Bowen. Don't underestimate them too much, in my opinion. It's just a few blanks. Okay, yeah, for JP it's 5, but I don't think the conditions have been particularly great. For Bowen, I mean, he returned last game, and in recent times, he hasn't even been that bad at all. Yes, I know West Ham are not that good, but when they play a side which is, I'd say, more conducive with success, they're okay. Like, they're okay. They've got attacking talent, and he himself individually can absolutely make moments. And they'll probably both be good on bonus when they score. So consider that. Lastly, midfielders, and there are quite a few to speak about, so I will do so in a somewhat quick-fire fashion. Firstly, Manchester United mates. I think the next batch of fixtures are more suitable for Matthias Cunha, if any. I think as opposed to exploiting space in behind and then being extremely transitional in nature, like those long-distance, quick type of transitions, it's more so going to be blocks that United face. I think you get Cunha in a pocket, especially given how hungry he is for goals and how willing he is to shoot at any given occasion. I can see him doing quite well. I also think for him, getting that first one was a huge thing. I have seen a post on X where it says that Bruno Fernandes was helping him after the training sessions and one of the variety of things to increase his confidence and also help him after his injury. And he does seem, in my opinion, a little bit more like that than Brian Mbeumo, who would maybe take to things slightly differently, right? And as such, I think getting that one and just getting things going, I think will be a huge thing for him. I wouldn't be surprised to see him do really well soon. Mbeumo, very justifiable. Top player, one of the best right wingers in the league. Super dangerous attack with so much attacking quality, obviously to feed off and play with. I just don't think the fixtures are as suitable. So if you wanted to go Cunha, I'd prefer that. But again, just so much quality. And it's not like they're horrible from a stylistic standpoint. So yeah, I like it. To me, Bruno Fernandes is somewhat inevitable. Whether it be an assist and then picking up bonus, a goal and picking up max bonus, DEFCON, he's going to get you in some way in the very near future, pretty much all the time. So going this as a set and forget, and just knowing that over a long span, you are going to have points rolling in. He's going to be in the top 10 midfielders, I would assume, irrespective of this deeper role. Is nice, is very safe. Now, is this a player that's going to propel you to the absolute top ranks? It can if you use the money extremely efficiently elsewhere, but at a bare minimum, it will do well for you. Now, maybe going for Cunha in his hot patch and then Mbeumo for his hot patch would be better for your chance of reaching number 1, but Bruno at least will do a very good job overall in terms of your rank, even for his price, considering the fact that no one else is firing in the same way that they have been in the past, really. Apart from like 2 players. Or if you're a defensive midfielder who likes to get DEFCON. I've seen some talk about selling Semenyo. I do get it. Obviously, he's quite expensive now. There are other mids starting to look like they might blossom. I just think to use a free transfer, where the efficiency of free transfers at the moment is really high in terms of like wanting it to be extremely efficient. The fact that he's only got 1 game a week pretty much. He's such a good player with so much talent who looks like he's hit a new gear this year, and even he said his mentality's changed. He's a bit calmer on the pitch, doesn't snatch the shots as much. I'd say it's a big risk to go against. And to use a free transfer, if you're wrong at all, the downside's enormous with his ceiling. So I wouldn't, but I do get it. And if you were to do it, like I would get it, but I just think you really need to appreciate how big of a risk it is and whether or not the upside's really there. Because even if you go for one of these United mids, Semenyo in any given game can slam a brace or a goal and assist or a goal with some bonus. And you can get DEFCON as well, as we've seen. I wouldn't buy Gakpo. I get it, again. The reason I wouldn't get it is he's always 50 minutes away or even like 50 minutes away of not so much a poor performance, but just not a great performance, and Slot will hook him. Around 70, Chiesa come on, Rio come on, we're going to change the dynamics, Wirtz left wing, right? I think you want that when you're paying this much in such a valuable spot. Then another thing is if Liverpool do start to click a bit more, well, then the spread of output will come into play. Ekitike, Salah, Wirtz maybe in the middle as well, Szoboszlai, right? And as such, when you pull all that together, and the fact that he's not the most consistent finisher, I'd say the ceilings are under threat, right? So I wouldn't. I get it, but I wouldn't. And then lastly, just to speak about some of the cheaper guys very quickly. Szoboszlai, I really like it. I think at right centre midfield, as I spoke about in the Salah section, he's got a very decent route to assist by playing Salah in a lot. He's a monster on DEFCON. He's got the engine to keep going. He's got the willingness to engage in the duels. And he's got the competence that when he does engage in the duel, to win it. And as such, for DEFCON, he'll be really good for a long time. So at 6'5", very high floor option with a decent ceiling. So I like it. Xhaka for 5'1", very high floor option with a decent ceiling. Going to hit DEFCON so often, and he's got an absolute sledgehammer on him. He will get some goals and assists throughout the season. And if you just play him every week and to ensure you don't miss out on returns over the long stretch at 5.1 million, I don't think you can go too wrong. I really, really don't. And if you catch the good period, and it happens to be when you buy him, to get off him then and try and make another high upside play, love it. Imagine if I told you you'd get a 5.1 million defender, floor of 4 for most games, and they might chuck in the odd clean sheet to get them up to 5. And then if they hit some attacking returns, they're going to get bonus as well. You'd probably be all over it. So yeah, I really like it. I don't like Minter as an option. But the thing that I've said so many times, I think he has a mental block when it comes to being ruthless in the final third. And that's why you don't see these big hauls from him. He gets into positions. He clearly has the talent, but he's just not that ruthless in front of goal. And it really hurts his goals and assists. And as such, I just wouldn't go there. You're picking someone who historically, and even now, looks very limited in terms of being able to achieve a high ceiling in a spot where you really don't need to do that. And you're paying a decent amount of money. So for me, I just don't like it. Njai/Grealish. Njai in particular, I quite like as just if you want to, a long-term hold. I mean, he's got DEFCON going for him. Grealish doesn't really. He's got penalties going for him. Grealish doesn't really. He's more of a goal scorer than Grealish has really ever been. So I wouldn't hold on to Jack, but Illiman, I don't mind at all. I think you have to accept that like he should have so many more points than he has done, but maybe the finishing in that Everton side doesn't change. He has to do so many things, and it's not just a role which is focused on output. If anything, it's quite far away from that. So you have to accept these games where he's going to have a lower floor, irrespective of the quality performance, and maybe the ceiling isn't going to be as high. But over the long run, for 6'5", he could do really well. Enzo, I mean, this is the type of game where his box crashing would be more useful, so I wouldn't sell him. And then he's got Wolves and Burnley after, so I wouldn't sell him. Josh King, I mean, he scored. He got his first goal for Fulham. I think it was his first senior goal for Fulham in the Cup yesterday. They won as well. Good little bit of positive momentum. Maybe they needed that. 3 good fixtures coming up in Wolves at home, Everton away, Sunderland home. You want to play him? You want to keep him? I don't think there's an issue with that. You want to start him this week? I don't mind it, even over one of the bigger hitters. Rangers, I don't mind selling. I've spoken repeatedly about that snappiness against blocks and having to rely very heavily on those very quick transitional moments. City have so many attackers, it's not always going to be him in those. And I think his ceiling is limited as such. And he's not the most ruthless in front of goal either. So to sell, I would be perfectly happy with. And that is all she wrote for this one, ladies and gentlemen. I certainly hope you enjoyed. If you did, a like, a hype, a subscribe on the video would all be greatly appreciated. Thank you so much. And for those of you who don't know what a hype is, you essentially just swipe right on the comment section and it will allow you to push the video on the YouTube homepage and on the algorithm. So it'd be very much appreciated. I shall see you tomorrow for a very interesting team selection. And until then, have a terrific day and goodbye.